Okay, folks, I'm laughing, and I'll explain why here in a minute. But first off, let me welcome you. Let me welcome you to LotTalk episode 18, powered by Lotpop. I'm Chris Keene. I'm one of your co-hosts. Joining me are my great friends, Mr. Ronaldo Leonard and Mr. John Henderson. Yo, we don't see John right now because we've got John on a special Black Ops mission at a retirement village. So he really can't disclose his location. But look at that. He even fell off. He's so remote, Ronaldo, we can't even find him anymore. He's gone.
Yeah. We might have to encourage people to send us any notifications if they see John Anderson. And just a pro tip: don't challenge him to a game of cribbage for money. He's gonna take you.
Hey, my man's out there. My man's out there with some spoons, man. He's out there trying to teach the old folks, man, how to play the new variation of spoons. Oh, goodness. Ronaldo, I will tell you though, here in the next week, 2 weeks, we're gonna have some special guests on that are F&I centric. I'm not gonna reveal who they are because I want everybody to really hone in. And if you're watching this now, if you're listening now, you can comment all you want going, hey, who's coming on? But I'm not going to tell you yet because you just have to tune back in because they are preparing some really good dialogue to help our automotive community, which leads me to Ronaldo. Explain to our viewers, explain to our listeners why we do this each and every week.
Oh, man. Well, it always goes back to the fact that we were provided so much insight when we first started in the industry. The older folks like Mr. Anderson, you say, come on over here, Keene, sit on my lap and let me learn you something. And but they would pour into us. Yeah. There's so many intricacies in our business. I mean, when you break it all down, it is simple. I mean, you buy low, you sell high, and you do it as often as you possibly can. But there are so many intricacies in the business that it gives us an opportunity to pour some of that knowledge that we pick up on conversations that we have with our dealer partners on a daily basis. I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't pass that along to all the listeners out there and all the viewers on the podcast. If we didn't pass that information along, then we're just basically wasting an opportunity to elevate those operators out there that we deal with on a weekly basis and on a daily basis. So we get together every week to touch on those situations and scenarios that we see coming down the pike so that dealers can be proactive as opposed to sitting back and being reactive and being affected by things that they can't control. So we take the opportunity every chance we get to share those things that we see coming around the bend to prepare dealers to be as profitable as possible for what we see coming around the bend.
And that's always been the big thing for us here at Lotpop. Our number one core value is dealers first, and we don't take that lightly.
Nope.
We have a lot of fun on these podcasts here, and if you're one of our clients, we have a lot of fun on the calls. If you've ever been out with us at one of the trade shows, whether it be NADA, Digital Dealer, I mean, you're going to see us having a lot of fun. But the most important thing to us throughout all this fun, the number one thing that we don't forget is our dealers do come first.
Absolutely.
And when Mr. Anderson came up, last summer and said, hey, we should, do a podcast and give back to the community, the automotive community, just every last bit of wealth of knowledge. But the thing that you said, Ronaldo, that really sticks out is staying ahead and staying ahead of that curve. And Brett, if you wouldn't mind, throw up on the screen because I want to kind of talk about that staying ahead of the curve. Throw up on stage there. There we go. This is exactly what I'm talking about when we talk about staying ahead. And when you look here on the screen, and what I'm describing on the screen here for the listeners is we take a lot of data from the industry, and then we take one piece of data from here at Lotpop, which is this green line. And that green line is showing, when dealers are, how much of their inventory that they're selling against what they're stocking. So for instance, we look at the most recent data here, and all of our Lotpop dealers are at what's called 50% 2-week sell rate, meaning they're on track to sell what they are stocking. They're stocking 100, selling 100, stocking 200, selling 200. But the thing that I want to point out here, because you talked about staying ahead, on this same screen, there's a red line, and that red line is showing when the shopper index is declining and when it's inclining. There's a black line showing when the retail days to turn is coming down and when the retail days to turn is going up. And if you look across this screen, the green line doesn't stay down in the valleys very long. Why? Because we absolutely positively do what we can to stay ahead of the trends when we see those retail days to turn start going up, when we see those shopper indexes coming down. We are really trying to stay ahead of the curve, so that way when dealers happen to fall down in that valley, we can hurry up and pull them back up to outperform their independent markets. Which means when we look at this information here, it's vital. It's completely vital, which is why we do this show, because we want to help the dealers, even if you're not clients of ours. We want to give you as many nuggets as we possibly can to help keep you out of those deep valleys. Mr. Anderson, are you in the middle of a pinochle game right now, or are you available?
No, I just been sitting back listening to you guys abuse an old man, so no big deal.
That's not abuse. That is not abuse. We gave you your warm milk and your blanket right before nap time. Okay.
I saw the jokes. I saw Brett put up, "Where's Mr. Anderson?" I saw it all. I just been sitting back enjoying the comedy.
So, Mr. Anderson, thinking about those taxes, and even just the threat of the taxes, the trade wars, the tariffs, we've kind of seen that start impacting, even though those things haven't come to fruition as of yet. We've started seeing those kind of impact the consumer market out there. What would be your best piece of advice looking at this data right here to give to our general managers, our owners, our used car managers, salespeople, BDC? What would be your best piece of advice to give?
I wouldn't be in a rush to take your cars to auction. Looking at what I'm looking at, it looks like, we've seen it from our end. We have some dealers that have had very successful springs, but we've had a lot of dealers that didn't have as much success as they'd planned on. So, it looks like that spike up tells me that spike up tells me these guys are rushing their inventory to auction because maybe they didn't have a good spring. And I would say pump the brakes on that. Give yourself a chance to add to your customer tree, your family tree, right? So determine what you feel like that vehicle will bring it to sale, and give your customers, put that online that way. Don't just pull the car, run it to auction. Determine what you're willing to take it to sale, put it online, and see if you can grab a customer. Give a customer a wholesale price. If it's a late model, as you always say, Chris, if it's a late model unit, you're high chances you're going to get a trade. You're going to get a chance at F&I. Your part department's going to get a chance to supply parts on that trade. Your service department's going to get a chance to work on that trade. So I would pump the brakes on rushing this stuff to the auction right away, and I would give myself a chance to retail it. Put it on there for 7 to 10 days. and watch all the metrics, right? Am I getting a lead on it? Are my leads, we show in our tool leads since the last price change, right? So if I put it on wholesale, I'm going to be able to see those leads that come in since moving into that wholesale price. Our lot links, right? It tells me how many customers are coming to my website to look at that unit, right? Look at in my inventory management tool and in my merchandising, whether it's Auto Trader, Cars.com, Car Gurus, True Car, and am I getting a spike in interest on that vehicle, right? And then lastly, I would say get your managers involved. Don't leave it to your salespeople. No offense, salesperson people.
I think John brings up a great point. A lot of times with dealers that we work with, they will respond that maybe my salespeople aren't getting these prospects engaged as well as they possibly could. And my question is always, how engaged are you in that follow-up process?
Exactly.
With your salespeople, the question that we always ask, what would you do if you saw someone walking in the showroom floor and they stood in the middle of the showroom floor for 5 minutes and no one approached them, no one asked them a question, no one interacted with that person? How long would it take you to throw a chair through the wall? And they always say almost immediately. But yet
we'll let hundreds of ups walk around our digital dealership all day long,
right?
And not get taken care of. I want to unpack a little bit of what John just said there. If we've got that vehicle that is not getting the activity on there, like he was talking about, with our software and dealers, you don't have to be on our software to do this. We just keep everything into, one centralized location is the way we help consult our dealers. But besides that, you could go into your back-end tool of any of your third-party sites that you're on. You can look at your Google Analytics. And to John's point, if you go, instead of taking that vehicle and putting it out in the wholesale market for potentially somebody in your market to end up picking up that vehicle, take that vehicle and advertise it and then watch those metrics. But here's the thing. When do we, quote unquote, put that at that wholesale dollar? Ronaldo, one of the things that, we've always talked about with LotWalk and when we've consulted with our dealers is, hey, take your inventory. Once you get it out there in front of the consumer market, take 7 or 10 days, watch that vehicle. And if it's not getting activity, we got to make a move.
Right. Absolutely.
And one of the things that my mentor taught me years ago, back in 99, when I first became a used car manager, he sat there and told me, he says, Chris, this is long before we had all these metrics and data and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. He said, you should run by a 7, a 14, and a 21-day schedule. Meaning that in the first 7 days, hurry up and get that thing out there frontline ready. Now, back then, that's when we put the vinyl stickers on and we had the big grill on the roof and we had to balloon up on the hour every hour and we had to do all those things. He says, but get that stuff out there on the front line. If it's been out there on the front line for 7 days now, peel them stickers off, put new stickers on, move the car, re-merchandise it, et cetera, run a new liner ad, do all of those things. If it ain't getting no activity, you got to move it.
Right.
You got to change the pricing. You got to change it on the lot. You got to put a new grill on. You got to put new balloons on it. You got to do all that stuff.
Yep.
Well, in today's world, it's different. Okay, maybe you got to run a spotlight ad. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe you got to re-meditate it. Maybe you got to do this. Maybe you got to do that. And then pull the pricing lever if need be. But here's the thing, folks. If the car is not getting the activity, you got to make a change. And activity is not defined as just a lead only.
Yep. Now,
the whole titling of this series we're in of taxes, trade wars, tariffs, we're talking about F&I at this point. And there's a reason behind that. Because if I run 7, 14, 21 days, I don't have anything going on. Hell, by day 21, I may be looking at the wholesale market. Because if you guys remember that are watching the screen, you saw that blue line going up. And what that blue line going up is showing you is the amount of inventory that was actually wholesaled. It wasn't retailed, it was wholesaled. So why would I do that? Because this is the second part of John's point was, why would I sit there and wholesale that rig when I could take that vehicle, put the vehicle to market, and give my F&I department and my sales department an opportunity to retail the vehicle and pick up dollars somewhere. And as John spoke about earlier, that we preach all the time, the later the model of the vehicle, the more opportunity you get on getting a good trade back that you historically wouldn't get to buy at the auction. But Ronaldo, I was talking with the dealer. Matter of fact, it was Sunday. I was talking with the dealer on Sunday via text. And I asked him, I said, hey, what type of differences are you making in your F&I department with everything going on right now? He goes, oh my God, Chris, we're training F&I almost weekly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost week.
You have to, because you have
why?
to take, as the market is shifting because of all of these unknown variables that we are trying to stay ahead of. You got to maximize your opportunity to create profit in those other streams of income. And no place is it more important than in the box. You know, the wizards back there, I mean, you send them something that might be a $500, $1,000 loser on the front end, and take them to the box, and they end up spending you a whole lot of profit. But they won't do that unless they're training how to handle the situation, present all the product that you have available to you back there, and also looking at every deal with a fine tooth comb to figure out exactly where can we recoup the opportunity to generate profit on that deal. And you know me, if my first line is, if you don't train them, you can't blame them. So you take this opportunity in the cycle of what's going to happen over the next 60, 90, 120 days to train those folks and get them to the point where they see the opportunity coming and they know exactly which play to run to maximize the dollars you get out of that deal. Then you're just sitting back waiting for miracles to happen. And those miracles are the exception rather than the rule. You have to set yourself up for success, set your people in finance up for success by getting them the training that they need in order to recognize a situation where they can cash in and make the most of that opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You bring up something of setting up F&I. Here's $1 million question. And I would love for listeners, for viewers, for you to comment below. Okay. Comment below, because I want to know if this is part of your process. And if it's not part of your process, I strongly recommend adopting it as part of your process. If you don't have an F&I person sitting at the desk for salespeople to be able to say, hey, and this is Bob from our F&I department, and give a warm introduction to somebody from F&I from day one, you're missing the boat. If part of your experience when you bring the customer back in from the test drive, which is a whole nother conversation, because right now I still hear that dealers are flipping keys to customers, or salespeople are flipping keys to customers, signing a BVA and sending them out on their way. I'm like, this is beyond me, but that's a whole other conversation. But when we come back from the test drive and we park up on Sold Row, if we're immediately walking straight to the desk, we're missing the boat. I would like to know, comment below, if part of your sales process is, once we park on Sold Row, if we walk the customer through our service department, come around the backside of it and walk them over by the F&I department where the F&I waiting lounge is, what those next steps are once y'all come to terms on the sales side of it, and then they're going to go to F&I. Are we introducing them to F&I? Are we talking about vehicle service, agreements? Are we talking about all of the different products ahead of time to ensure that the vehicle, that the investment that the consumer is making, that we are going to give them options to protect that investment? And I think that was, Anderson, I don't know if you're back with this, but I think those are some of the things you're talking about as well when it comes to training our salespeople. Anderson, you back with us, sir?
Yeah, no, you're spot on, Chris. I mean, look, you brought up your mentor and the things that he was telling you to do. What was your position at that time when he was telling you all that?
I was an assistant used car manager.
Okay. But you were a manager.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. So that was my point, right? I think too many times, and let me say this before what I'm about to say. I'll be transparent on myself. I lost a deal one time that was it would have potentially set a record for that dealership. And I lost it because I didn't get off my lazy butt. I didn't get involved when I should have gotten involved. Right. And it was a valuable lesson. I never forgot it. Right. And my mentor at that time saw it happening and let it happen for that very reason. It was painful to him, but he let it happen so that he could come in and coach afterwards. Right. And his point being was, brother, I put you in a management position because I want you to manage the dealership, which means you don't sit in the chair and have an expectation that everybody else is going to do things. You get up and you lead. You be a leader, right? And so that was to your point, Chris, and what your mentor was telling you, right? He was having you do things 7, 14, 21 days, right? And so I think one of the biggest problems we have nowadays, and I'm not blaming the individual, I'm blaming technology. There's so much technology now, right? Back in my day, and you guys can joke about it, but back in my day, there wasn't all the technology, right? So I had to get out and put prices on cars. I had to go out and do things, right? because our main way of marketing our inventory was one-liners in the newspaper and bringing people to the lot. And those cars had to be standing tall and in line. So you had to be out there working on the lot most of the time, right? But now the technology and most guys sit at the desk and don't move. And you have to get up and move. You have to be involved, right? What are some of the best experiences I've had when I walk into a business, whether it's a restaurant or I was just at a local Walmart yesterday. To be honest with you, up here in a new area that I'm at, I was in a local Walmart, and I got the manager was out on the floor saying hi to people, coming around saying, "Hey, how do you like our store?" I mean, this store was immaculate. I mean, immaculate, and he was interested in the pulse of the customer, right? And that always makes you feel good, irregardless of when a manager circulating a restaurant comes around, introduces himself and says, "Hey, how was your food? How was your service?" Right. And so I think this very point that I'm making is where a lot of dealerships are missing the boat, right? Those managers should be out of their chair. When a customer comes in the front door, they should be introducing themselves and who you're here to see and getting the salesperson, right? And then to your point, Chris, yes, the salesperson should then take the ball and run with it and make sure that the customer's introduced to all those different areas within the dealership, right? Making sure that they feel a part of the family. That just goes a long way. And can you do that virtually? Yes. As we've alluded to, if I've got a car not selling, but I've had customers on that car, pick up the phone and say, "Hey, this is John Anderson, manager at ABC Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. I just wanted to touch base with you because I know you showed interest in that Dodge Ram. What is it going to take for me to earn your business on that vehicle?" How simple of a call is that? And then stop, don't talk anymore, and let the customer respond to your question. And then you can either do it or you can't do it. If they've got a trade, whatever the case, ask. But I mean, pick up the phone. Don't just sit there and rely on salespeople to do the entire job. Your job as a manager is to manage.
And I think that I can't stress enough, because let's put all the puzzle pieces together here. if our margins are compressing on the front and we have the capability to pick them up in the back, to your point, Anderson, we've got to get our F&I departments involved on the front end of these things quicker, faster, and more efficiently.
100%.
Because last thing you want to do is be on a 30, 45 minute, hour long presentation of the vehicle, demonstration, etc., and then come inside, and whatever time that takes you to come to terms on the vehicle, and then now we're going to introduce them to a new person.
Exactly.
And they're going to sit there and talk about all great benefits and products, that I firmly believe every last consumer, whether you pay cash for a vehicle or whether you finance the vehicle, you should take advantage of the ones that make the most sense. I firmly believe in that. But now you're asking the consumer to go talk to a new person that they've got a relationship with you guys now on the front end side of it. And now they get a brand new person. That person has to not only be efficient with time because the customer's already wore down, but then they've got to try to make a friend, and then they've got to try to pick up the additional gross profits. But this is where the onus is not on the salesperson for this. Yes, the salesperson should walk them back to F&I, but the onus now comes on ownership, general managers, general sales managers. Y'all need to incorporate your F&I department in the front end side of this. So that way, especially if you're a new car store and you have a survey on the line, we all know surveys can get crushed because of the F&I department.
Yeah.
But it's really not the F&I department's fault when they have a job to run a certain PRU, to run a certain PFU, to run a certain penetration in F&I, but you expect them to get all that done in 30 minutes or less or get your money back is essentially, what we end up saying, and it's like, are you kidding me? This is psychotic. I don't know, Ronaldo. I mean, when it comes to F&I and getting the F&I department involved, I mean, hell, you were in the dealerships before. I mean, what was y'all's process?
Oh my gosh, probably the most successful process that I was involved in. First of all, started out with the pay plan. As a salesperson, whatever was sold inside of F&I got a percentage of that. So I made it. I made, it was paramount for me during the interaction with that salesperson or with that prospect to say, now, when you go to finance, I want you to make sure that you pay attention to every product that they present you with and understand completely what it is that they're offering you. Because in the grand scheme of things, yes, this is going to be the largest or the second largest purchase you'll ever make in your lifetime. If you don't protect it, then I don't ever want you to come back to me and say, how come you didn't tell me that I needed to get, And so it was part of the service that I was providing as a salesperson to my client to say, hey, pay attention. If it doesn't make sense for you, it doesn't make sense for you. That's fine. I said, but I know that when you talk to Brian or you talk to Jeremy or you talk to whatever, whoever's next up, and I knew beforehand, he said, if you don't listen and you don't ask questions, it's not on me. It's on you. I'm giving you the opportunity, one, to purchase this vehicle that's going to fit your needs, wants, and desires, and inside of your budget. But I'm also going to give you an opportunity to make sure that you don't get bitten down the road with an expense that you can't afford. So, and then I would walk them over and I'd say, okay, Brian, this is Mr. and Mrs. Jones. We've gone through, we've picked out this vehicle, and they know without a fact that you're going to take care of them as far as the financing part of this vehicle goes. And I've let them know that they should pay attention to everything that you provide for them as far as information and the way that these products are structured so that they understand everything. But I've also let them know that I'm not on the hook once they leave your office and they haven't taken advantage of anything that you're offering them. And then we'd all just sit there, laugh and chuckle, and then I'd go on my way and wait for him to come out. But I set Brian up, or my F&I manager, that they were going to have his full attention, and they were going to ask questions, and then they were going to make a well-informed decision because I alerted them to the fact that this information is important. You're not done yet.
Mm-hmm.
Not done yet. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
that you protect yourself and your family, because if anything does go wrong, it could hit your pocketbook, in a way that you aren't able to recover from. And nobody likes to make payment on a vehicle that they can't drive. So let's make sure that we get that taken care of before you walk out of the door.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah, but just setting it up as, an opportunity to further make sure it's the right situation for you going down the road by taking all the information that you possibly can and not walking into it in an adversarial posture. These guys are just trying to get to me, try to rip my head off. Margins are good there, and it is a revenue stream for the dealership. But on the other side of it, they do provide a service for you that's going to help you help make the ownership of that vehicle a little more pleasurable. But that was the posture that I took, and that was set up by the training that I received going into it, and the education that I received, the training that I received as far as what they were doing in finance. And then when I moved into that chair, I would ask those questions. Hey, so what was the conversation that Chris had with you prior to bringing you over and introducing you to me? Man, how do you feel about it? Is there anything up front that you'd like to have more information on? And is there anything that you've kind of got your mindset that isn't an option for you? And we can save you time and make sure that we scratch where you're itching, so to speak, but then also cover all the other bases, because I'm going to present you with a menu and it's going to have everything in it. So let's get to brass tacks and make sure that you have what you need when you walk out.
No, you're spot on, and that's what I got to stand up because I just looked at the screen and I noticed that when I'm sitting down, I look like a midget. I mean, even though you're like 4 inches taller than me, but at least on camera, it doesn't look that way.
I'm just going to sit right in the camera.
I know. I'm going to grab my camera and move it closer to me.
No.
But you're 100% spot on. We've got to make sure we're doing that. We've got to make sure that we are, from an F&I standpoint, F&I managers. If you happen to be listening to this call, or sales managers, GMs, GSMs, owners, if you're listening to this call, or do your F&I managers, do they ask those questions? Hey, what kind of conversations did your salesperson have with you about the different variations of protection that we are going to offer you for your vehicle and for your actual financing package here? They should be asking those questions from an F&I standpoint. Mm-hmm. But also with the margins compressing like we're seeing them right now, there's two things that I know when I was on the desk, I had to know. And it was in regards to F&I. There was two very important things I had to understand and I had to know. Three, excuse me. I had to know what our finance penetration was in used cars. I had to know what the PFU was, the per finance. And then I had to know what the ultimate PRU was. If I take a vehicle and I'm pricing it on the money, and it's a wholesale deal, and this vehicle's 37 days old, and the market keeps just trimming out on this thing. But I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to run it at the auction. I'm going to put this thing on the money, and I'm going to retail it for wholesale dollars. Mm-hmm. I still needed to know what my profit potential is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
So if it's a pre-owned car and I'm at a 74% finance penetration in my used car department, I knew there was a 74% probability that I'm going to get financing on this vehicle. And then of those one that financed, if I've got this car and it's losing $2,000 for me to retail it, but I knew in that 74% probability to finance that in our PFU, we're running $3,500 copy, I got $1,500 there. Mm-hmm. And I had to look at each individual car as it sat. Right. So my message to sales managers, every day, you should know what your finance penetration is. You should know what your per finance is. And then, yes, you should know what your overall PRU is in the F&I department. Those three things right there can help you make a better decision on what you're doing with that piece of inventory right now. Salespeople, my advice to you, the car may not be yielding to make you a commissionable, a respectable, commissionable profit for yourself. It may not. But I also know if you keep walking around that vehicle, you're not freeing up capital for your used car manager, your buyers, your GSM, your GM, your owners to go refill that parking spot because you got to free those dollars up first. So don't walk around that inventory. Sell it. Let's be quick about it. Yep. Let's get the thing out of here so we can replenish something that's going to be more profitable that fits your store in your market with the way that the salespeople sell.
Yep. Oh, well, that's something I never really did understand is walking around a vehicle because it did not gross me a large enough commission on the deal once it was done, because every vehicle that you sold got you closer to the next pay grid. When I first started, you could,
whether it be a bonus, whether it be a percentage bump, whether it be
bump in your percentage, or you got a bonus in the total numbers that you sold at the end of the month. So why would I walk around a vehicle? I mean, even if it were going to be a negative deal for the dealership overall, I was going to get a flat, $100-$200. And back then, a lot of money.
Some of those flats now are $200-$300.
Exactly. Yeah. So walking around a vehicle never really made sense to me. But once again, I always knew that once it got in the box, I had an opportunity to generate a little bit more income for myself, for my family, if I turned it over properly and they were able to get some products sold inside of F&I. Had a conversation with the dealer last week, franchise dealer, and he mentioned that they always took a deal or they penciled a deal with some leg in it on a new car side and then send it into finance. But on the used car side, didn't feel like their sales team was strong enough to be able to pencil it with product in it before they went into F&I on a used vehicle.
That's a mindset. That's just a mindset.
And I said, that's thinking. I mean, if they are in fact weak and cannot handle that process, that's a
training problem.
That's your fault as a manager, because you haven't trained them and you hadn't given them the essential knowledge that they need to be able to work that, penciling that deal and setting it up in finance. So a weak sales team, it's only an indication of a weak manager.
Hold on, the organ about to come out and start playing. Hang on, now you're preaching, baby.
But you're preaching. I mean, honestly, I mean,
you spot on.
It's just one of those things that you got to take the time to do. And so I was happy to hear that, you had that conversation on how they're going to approach, taking advantage of those opportunities going in through the rest of the spring, because as we get closer to what's going to happen, I think I saw on the news this morning that the tariffs that were scheduled to take place April 1st may not apply to the automotive industry. And the may not being the operative word there. It might kick in and it might not. But if we sit back and be reactive to it, we're going to be that much further behind the curve and are not going to be positioned to capitalize on the situation when it does come in.
Which is why we've got to be very hyper-focused on the areas of opportunity when it comes to profitability that we can control. And that's why F&I is an area that we absolutely can control. Listeners, I'm telling you now, if you are an import store and the majority of what you're selling are imports, and you got to start carrying more domestic pieces in there, if your F&I department is not trained on how to set a menu up for F&I products for a Ram pickup truck or an F-250 or a Dodge Durango or a Tahoe, if they're not prepared, all you're doing is just chopping your nose off, spite your face. Yeah, you may get some penetration, but are you maximizing? Yeah, you may still be running XYZ dollars PRU, but are you maximizing there? Because you're going to have to maximize every dollars. Mr. Anderson, are you back with us, sir? I don't know if you caught the segment there. I don't know if you caught the piece there where I was talking about 3 things that a used car manager, desk manager, anybody penciling a used car deal should know. They should know their penetration in used cars, F&I. They should know their PFU. They should know your PRU. Now, I know one of the guys that you work for, and I know him extremely well, and I know he beat those 3 things into you guys all the time. Okay?
Yep.
From your vantage point, how important is it when you're responsible for volume and gross as a sales manager or used car manager or GSM, when you're responsible for that, knowing every single day when you wake up in the morning and you show up to that dealership, knowing exactly where you are with that finance penetration, with that per finance unit, with that per retail unit in your F&I department, how important is that?
It's the easiest way I can answer that question, Chris, is you're within the body of a dealership. You have really 4 businesses running. You have your new car department, your used car department, your service department, and your parts department. So you have 4 businesses under one rooftop. I visited a dealer recently to train the dealer, and what I tried to impress upon everyone there, specifically the salespeople, is the business model in an automobile dealership is amazing because I can come under that roof and I can operate my own business within a business because I have, and I don't have the investment, right. The owner's taking the responsibility of that investment, right. So he's got $5 million or $10 million invested in that inventory, and maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's part of the reason of you and how important those 3 things are. And the reason why I set up that way or said what I said is you're running a business, so run your business, right? If that was actually your money on the line, then you would know everything about that. Yes, those 3 things are basic fundamentals of running a business, right? I can't expect what I don't inspect, and I can't manage what I don't know the numbers to. I'm amazed when we get on a call and we ask questions of a dealer that we're potentially signing up, and we ask some pretty rudimentary 101 questions, and I get the answer, I'm not sure, I don't know. And you're a manager, right? There shouldn't be, Chris and Ronaldo, there shouldn't be any question that we ask a dealer, a manager at a dealership, that they don't know the answer to. Not one. And to me, and again, I know I could be, you guys had a lot of fun with me this call because of I'm the get off my lawn curmudgeon that moved out into the sticks and I don't have connection, right? So,
oh, John, you're Black Ops. You Black Ops right now.
but
see, there he goes again.
There is no excuse that you can give me, not one excuse you can give me as a manager at a dealership if you don't know everything about what's happening at that dealership. If I ask you, listen, you mentioned the guy that trained me. He asks questions all the time, and I better know the answer. And he knows, I guarantee he knows the answer, and I better not lie to him, right? So that was constantly, there's a famous conversation about Bill Belichick when he's walking around the halls of the complex, and now he's at North Carolina, but this was when he was at the Patriots. And when he's walking around the halls at the football complex, and players or coaches pass him, he's known for asking questions of them when he passes them, whatever it might be. What are we doing this week on third and long under this circumstance, right? And those guys better have the answer and know the answer, right? And that's kind of the way. Yeah, I mean, you talk to some of those players, they tell you about that, right? He'd come up to you, and you better be prepared, right? That's my point, man. If you want to be ultra successful in this business, and by driving that means that you got to know all the answers to the questions, and there can't be ever a time that comes out of your mouth going, well, I'm not sure. I don't know. We've had dealers where we ask about a vehicle. We're looking at a vehicle and saying, that vehicle might be 120 days old, and we're trying to figure out what's going on with it. And tell me about this vehicle. And I get the answer. Chris got his head in his hands. I get the answer. I don't know where that vehicle's at.
I don't know. Did we? Hey, Fred. Did you sell that last night? I mean,
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah. You have 47 cars in stock, and you don't know where that car is. I mean, oh Lord of mercy, John.
The question that I have on that is, with all of the technology that we have at our fingertips, okay, it seems like we're doing less work or getting less results with more information. And is that?
I agree, Ronaldo. I agree. Yeah.
So is it the fault of these dealers not knowing exactly which metrics to measure and manage to, or a training situation where they have not been schooled on what these metrics are going to indicate for you to stay ahead of?
Well, I think those two are in the same. Right there. But really, I think where the challenge is, do you remember the episode we did a long time ago about a crock pot, set it and forget it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. That's what an IMS or a CRM or this tool or that tool or this piece or that piece, that's what it has done. Sales managers, okay? I'm going to throw you under the bus here. Because if your GMs, your GSMs, your owners, if y'all listen to this, you're equally as at fault with this. Because we saw a shiny object at the NADA convention and we signed up on it because it looked really cool and it was a great demo. But now we expected it to be the silver bullet, the holy grail, the next coming of Jesus. And we are, here, let me set this tool up. But yet I can sit there and ask a group of sales managers to get 82 cars on the ground. Hey, what's going on with this vehicle? There's 5 people on the call. Not one person knows where this vehicle's at. So yeah, that's a product of lazy. That's a product of Velcro ass. That's a product of rip the Velcro off your ass, get up and know where your cars are at all times. That's a product of not getting up and going back to your F&I department and having a conversation with F&I of where we can do a better job from the front is setting up the back, because we're experiencing some margin compression on the front and we're not doing a good job on the front right now. Why? It's not because our people suck. It's because it's where the market's at. So we got to go get our dollars somewhere else. So shame on the sales managers, shame on the GSMs, shame on the GMs, and shame on the owners for not bringing those two together to say, okay, here's where we're at. What's the plan? Mm-hmm. And that's where we're at. When you talk about the tariffs, when you talk about the trade wars, when you talk about the taxes, those are things that are affecting the consumer market, the ones that pay us a gross profit, the ones that enable us to keep the lights on. Those are things that are impacting their decisions. We showed you the data earlier. There is a downturn right now in the shopper index. If you don't get 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of this, you're going to be a victim of circumstance. And it's a circumstance that you created. Man, y'all got me fired up now. Hold on 1 second, man. Where's my rag? Hang on 1 second now. I'm telling you, though, man. It just pisses me off because, I sit there and I watch it. And to Anderson's point, we're doing a launch call with a brand new dealer, and we're asking a basic question. And then you got this. Everybody pointing in 15 different directions. No, own it. Yeah. Go own it. Don't bitch about your paycheck. Own the problem. Yeah. So here's where we're at. This is the problem. It's obvious. We showed you the data. The shopper index is going down. Days to retail turn are going up. Wholesale is going up. And if that's the case, go grab it from somewhere else. So, Mr. Anderson, if you're not in the matrix, anything in closing on your end, sir?
You either manage your business or your business manages you.
Woo!
Yep. Them's the facts. Them's the facts.
Mr. Leonard, anything from you, sir?
I would just say, with the metrics that you talked about, shopper counts down, which means that we've got to work our prospects thoroughly and completely. The days to retail are increasing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get that inventory to the market as fast as possible and not just sit back to let the market dictate how that vehicle is going to go. Put some action towards it. Make price changes. Put yourself on a disciplined schedule to look at those vehicles and adjust how we have it placed in the market so we can increase our opportunity to sell it. And then third, got to set it up when you turn it over to the box so we can generate that revenue that we're going to miss out because of conditions, but set things up in F&I to maximize that opportunity to generate profit potential. That's it. It's that simple. 1, 2, 3.
100%. So that being said, listeners, viewers, I implore you, tune in at the same time next week because you're going to hear from some of the absolute best minds in F&I out there that's going to help in some of the things that we dabbled in over these last couple of weeks. I can't wait to have these guests on because they are going to get outside the box and be a little thought-provoking. So please tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. If you haven't subscribed to LotTalk, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, subscribe now. Set your alerts up so you don't forget about it. My name's Chris Keene. You've heard from Ronaldo Leonard, our Director of Training and Performance. You've heard from John Anderson at an undisclosed Black Ops site, teaching old folks how to use Mac and making sure the Snuggies are on tight. From all of us here at Lotpop, we thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next week on LotTalk, powered by Lotpop. Thanks, folks.